What is up, Mullet Gang? It is your favorite neuro-edgy duo, ready to empower the fuck out of you.
Are you ready to break free from the chains of neurotypical expectations? Hello, I'm Susie. Welcome.
And I'm Amy, and we are the Mullet Gang. Hey!
And we are doing this episode intro by the skin of our teeth because it is Christmas week. We are getting ready the week before Christmas. I'm currently on my way back from Orlando to Stewart with my family. It's just been nonstop. For someone with ADHD, there's a lot of stimulation. There's a lot of family stuff that comes up. There's a lot of just this like panic and worry about making sure you're ready for the holidays. This year has been a little bit positive for us, though. We have been so excited to celebrate our baby's first Christmas, like where she's aware. Last Christmas, we were recovering from a C-section, so I didn't really get to enjoy Christmas as much. We also weren't home because of flooding, so this is like, okay, finally we can like really enjoy Christmas, be present with our family, and then enjoy our little one. We have one farewell episode after this where we will jump on and just recap the whole year. But we're really excited to launch part 2 of Chris's interview. Chris was really awesome and so open with us, and we felt really comfortable being open with her and getting able to learn a lot and have the conversation and go deep and think of new ideas to keep our relationships going and thriving, because if anything, I think that a lot of us really want to work on our personal relationships and our romantic relationships, and I think there's a lot of conversations to be had. I would love to have her back on. What about you, Amy? I know you really enjoyed having her.
Yes, totally. It was such a great conversation, and I cannot wait to have her back for future discussions and interviews.
We can see where the next year takes us. There's an announcement that we're going to be making next week, and I'm really excited about that because I think you guys are going to be excited to hear what we have come up with next.
It's been such an amazing first season. We will have our one wrap-up episode that we're recording next week that will probably launch before the new year. And yeah, we just want to kind of wrap up our first season with the Mullet Gang and talk about what's to come in the future. So we guys hope you enjoy episode 13. Let's talk about sex and ADHD. It was so valuable and spicy and fun, and we are stoked to continue to bring knowledge, empowerment, and education and resources to you guys in the neurodivergent community. I'm stoked to talk about what we have up and coming for 2025.
So without further ado, here is the next episode.
Like, especially when we look at like what is sex and sexuality, right? It's this like thing on the TV that then fades to black, right? Or like gross porn, right? But it's not like there's this idea that I think is lost for a lot of us, and was even lost for me. And I've been in sex educator since I was 15, and it was lost to me till I met my wife when like 6 years ago. Really, the point of sex is connection.
What?
Yeah, what?
What do you mean?
Right?
Huh? They didn't put that in the magazine in Cosmopolitan.
I didn't learn that in school.
Well, it's definitely to make like to use it as a weapon, right? Or
Pleasing.
or to use it to make sure that like you can get what you need, like to like as a manipulation tool, or to make sure that the other person will still love you. If you can think of anything else, then please add to it. But I don't think anything that I learned anyways was connection. Did anything you learn was connection?
No. I was today years old when I learned that.
Seriously.
Um,
Well, and that goes into, I think many of us had this desire to just be accepted, to please other people, to avoid rejection. And, that can become an element of it. This is how I keep people interested. This is how I'm worthy. This is how I earn love. It just serves its purpose to use it in this way versus that connection piece, or even empowerment too, to say like, hey, I can enjoy this. I can have fun with this. I can have my own wants or desires or exploration, and to have freedom within that. Right. And so you really have to relearn the idea of sex and sexuality, especially when you're in that relationship, right? And how to navigate that when stressors come up or other things that are bidding for your attention.
Yeah, and the thing that people miss too is like, "Come as You Are" by Emily Nagoski. I'm never
so
gonna stop. I know, so good, right? But like,
Yes.
there's we always want to press on the go button, especially as ADHDers, right? We want to be like, okay, let's get turned on, right? But we forget to take our foot off the brake,
Yes.
right? So how do you release the brake so that you can actually maybe be in your body? Right. Also, transitions for us are horrendous, right? So now we're transitioning from, taking care of the kids, doing the laundry, doing this, doing that, right? And now I'm supposed to like want to be with you, like on a dime. How do we make the transition something we want to come towards? And in neurotypical, people will say, like, sexy text throughout the day. That's fine. We have now and not now. So you can text me all day long. If 5 minutes before you come home, I break a glass and it's everywhere, none of that matters.
Right. That's so hard. Like you said, that transition piece, you're changing baby's diapers and you got throw up on your shirt and then it's like sexy time. And that is not easy because our mood changes so much throughout the day. Our mind is all over the place, and being in the moment in our body is so hard. I think being present, being able to turn all of that off and enjoy it and the experience, we may also have body image issues or insecurities that can add to the mix. Exhaustion, overload, overstimulation. Like there's just so many things that can compete with that desire, right? So what are some, I guess, things that you've learned in your experience as far as ADHD and sex and how to make that a priority and really lean into that connection?
So I think before we can make it a priority, we have to make it something that we want to do. Right? Because like we were saying, we can't say this is important to me and have that work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the good news is humans are built to co-regulate, right? So if you're like, right, and you have another person that can come down and not just try to like get something from you, but actually just be present with you, right? Like breathing together, syncing each other's heartbeats, right? Anything, if you have any ideas like that that you guys have used in co-regulation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing that my husband and I really enjoy is like giving each other massages, because it's like this dual benefit. If we both are really stressed and dysregulated, it's something where it feels really good. It helps calm your nervous system. It helps this connection, but it also creates that like sensual experience and can lead to that intimacy and desire, but it doesn't have to, right? And I think that's the other thing is there doesn't always have to be pressure on the outcome. It's just more of that intimacy and connection, which can be defined in a lot of different ways.
One of the things that I say is set a timer for 5 minutes. At the end of the 5 minutes, you do something else, right? But like to take that anxiety and pressure of like what it could be and just like 5 minutes of connecting in any way. Timer goes off, we're doing something else. And that can also help with like anticipatory stuff, right? Like do something else for like half an hour and then see how you feel, right? So like you can just kind of like but there's not that pressure of like, oh no, we have to go until everyone gets off and like whatever. Like I want to make sure that you're having a good time and getting in your head about it, right? Or like the big thing for us too is that default mode network. We have a part of our brain that never shuts up. Other people think nothing sometimes. I don't know what that's like. My brain always has at least 42 things. They're coming to the front. I know there's this, they say most people's brains, like most of it is happening subconsciously. I feel like much more of our brain happens very consciously. Like, and another thing,
We're too conscious and aware of everything at the same time. Damn it.
I wonder what happened during the Inquisition, right? Like, what are we even talking about, right? So how do we come back in a way that doesn't also beat ourselves up, right?
Ooh,
So,
grace, right?
right, grace, but also don't we don't have to put it in your head. If it's helpful to put it in your head and to like say things to yourself that are helpful, like, oh, I'm here right now. I want to be here right now. This is pretty cool, right? That's fine. Or just try to pay attention to what's happening in your big toe, right? Your big toe usually isn't a part of your body that is necessarily like an intricate part of what's going on in the moment, but like it can get you back to your body in a way that doesn't feel so like, oh my God, I have to be paying attention to what's going on in my genitals, right? Just like, how do we get back to this moment? How can I look around and like just see where I am and like, oh yeah, I'm safe. Oh yeah, what's interesting about this moment? Also, like, right, like it doesn't have to be like the thing that's supposed to be interesting about this moment. What could be interesting about this moment is there's just one hair on their back that just is moving weird and you think that's cool, right? But at least you're in the moment instead of like in your head, right?
Yes, like it's using that mindfulness and leaning into your senses so that you can ground yourself. And I think that's one of the hardest things with ADHD is to really be present in your body and experience those sensations without all that pressure, because then it becomes a feedback loop, right? It's like, okay, I have to focus, I have to be present. Okay, I have to focus. Oh, no, there goes my mind. I have to focus. I'm not enjoying this. I'm never going to be present. I'm never going to come back. And you are so anxious about the anxiety and the distraction that you actually can't focus. And so if you can take that pressure off and just kind of say, okay, I'm here, I'm trying to be present. What can I notice? What am I feeling? And just really talk yourself through in that way and use that mindfulness, I think that can help.
Also, tolerances, right? So, like, I can hear electricity. That's annoying. If I would like to have a nice day with my partner, I'm probably going to put in my loop headphones, right? Or maybe I'm going to listen to music. You can play with whatever, like gray music, white music. There's all this different green music, right? Whatever, like, makes your brain go, right? Do that, right? To get your brain to not have to hear whatever's out there, right? Also, like, animals, shake it out, like, get the anxiety out, right? Humans, they found, have also been helpful to just, like, if you just are in a place, just shake it out, right? Or dance, put on your favorite music and just dance for a couple songs. Again, the point is connection, and you're connecting, even if you're being goofy and acting like, giraffes while you're dancing or whatever, right? Like, are you in a place where you are present with your partner? Because the more time that you do that, the negativity bias, right? There are 5 for every 5 positive things, 1 negative thing will wipe it out, right? More or less. So if you can have these little moments, right, where you are dancing and making believe to do things, or like doing massages, or like singing your heartbeats, like just simple things that allow you guys to connect to each other are going to add to the positive side so that you can get a more positive feeling about your partner when they don't do the dishes for the 100th time.
Yes. It's so needed to have that balance, right? Because if you have that connection and intimacy, it makes all the other things so much easier to tolerate. But if you're not connecting in that way, then everything is amplified, right? You didn't do the dishes. You didn't give me a compliment today. I didn't like that look. You're chewing your food weird. And then all of a sudden, I hate this person. I can't stand them, right? Like you kind of get to this really negative place. And so having that connection, having that levity, it's just so important, and understanding there's lots of different ways to have intimacy and connect, but making that a priority. The other thing I think that is challenging for us when we're in long-term relationships is boredom and desire for novelty and spontaneity. So how do we find that? I've been with my husband for 21 years and, we're always mixing things up and trying to be creative, but that can be hard when you have ADHD and your brain's like new, shiny new thing, but you do want to stay committed to someone in a relationship. How do you navigate those things?
So, short podcast. Mating in Captivity is great. By Esther Perel. I think it's important that you see your partner in a different light. Because if you're always in the same place, right, and doing the same thing, then you forget that they are not the same person. We are constantly changing. You are technically with the same person, but that person has died and been reborn about 15, 20 times, probably.
Yes.
Right?
Agreed.
Maybe 10, whatever, but like a lot of times. And we don't notice because they're in the same meat suit. Right? So what can you do to get out of where you currently are, right? To remember to meet this new person. Sometimes it's actually going to the bar and making believe that you don't know each other, and then making believe to meet for the first time. And you'll hear stuff you didn't even know about them, right? We're not telling the same story that we would tell. We're not rehashing stuff and making believe. Like, we're trying to dig and find things that maybe will surprise our partner, right? And what is that, our partners, and like, what does that look like?
Ooh, I love that. It's like you get to rediscover each other, right? Because if you're doing it right, you're constantly growing and evolving as individuals, but also together in your relationship. And you want to be able to kind of surprise each other, experience new things together. That's why my husband and I love to travel and go to new places, even just like a new restaurant, because you do start to see each other differently, be around different types of people, be in different environments. And yeah, just have that ability to reintroduce each other. Like this idea of like going to the bar and saying, hey, let's see if you can pick me up. Let's see what you got.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's so fun to add that. And so many people don't realize that you can, like, you can mix it up, and there's always something new that you can learn about each other. But if you aren't open to that, then it's easy to overlook. Right.
Also, if you didn't know that sex was about connection, you were today years old when you figured that out, right? You might not have actually talked to your partners about what kind of touch you enjoy. You might not know. I, for years, played the this or that game when I was helping people get re-embodied, where you would touch either a hand or somewhere that felt safe. Because I worked with sexual assault survivors for a long time, and I worked with trans people that were mid-transition for a long time back in the early aughts. So sometimes it was like an elbow or whatever, and sometimes it was touching themselves, and sometimes if you're comfortable touching another person. But when I would do workshops, I usually did hands, and we would pair up and like we'd say, do you like this kind of touch or this kind of touch, right? And if you just look up types of massage, there's like tapotement, effleurage, right? You can get some senses of like different types of touch if the idea of like this freaks you out without a container. Some people are like, I don't need a container. Other people are like, give me a container, please. I really like a container. So I want to speak to both of those, right? And then figuring out, oh, actually, if these are the options, I like the first one, right? And when I wasn't working with ADHD people, what I would do is I would have them build on that to like 5 or 6 or 7 different touches that they liked. And they'd be like, whoa, that's a whole different thing, right? I cannot remember 5 or 6 or 7 touches in a row, right? That sounds very anxiety provoking for me. But even just like this or that, and then they say that, and then doing that a couple times, and then going on to the next one, this or that, doing that next one a couple of times, right? So like you get a sense of like, oh, and then if you went from the first one to the second one, which one do you like better? Oh, I like this one better, right? So just getting in touch with like, what do you actually enjoy? And that also changes over time. My wife had a baby last year. She does not have the same body she had before. She is a whole different flesh puppet than she was before.
Yeah, and everything feel different too, right? Like your experience and desire can change physically. So you have to have that communication and check in. Like, hey, do you still like this? Do you want to try something new? Like being open to experimenting and talking about it. Why is sex so taboo in relationships, right? Like I talk to so many couples and they've never talked about sex as far as what they like and they don't like and what they want to try. It's like, oh, we don't want to talk about that. We just do it.
I think it's really scary to talk about it if the point is orgasm and if the stakes are your worthiness.
Oof. Yes.
Right? But if we are saying, I am going to spend 5 minutes and the stakes are, we are going to try to connect to each other and we're just going to play and see what different kinds of touches we like and just kind of get in touch with our body, then that's why I say a lot in my classes, like, put the bar on the floor and then just step over it, right? We're not, or like gamifying, right, is another way to not have your worthiness connected to it, right? Or like dressing up in stupid, they're making it funny, right? Like dressing up in weird ways that are just like, the point is not to be sexy. The point is to be ridiculous. How ridiculous can we be? And how much can we laugh? And then sometimes when you laugh and you get all that cortisol out of your body and you just have the connection from laughing with each other, sometimes that becomes something sexy, but that's not the point. The point is to detangle your worthiness from your connecting in a physical way.
Yeah. It's not like this pass or fail, right? It's not this like performance. And I think that's where so many people get caught up. That's why I love like sensate focus activities where it's like, we're actually going to take sex off the table, right? We're not going to even worry about that right now. We're not going to worry about sex, orgasm, the outcome. We're just going to work on connecting, experimenting with each other, having sensory experiences with our body. And it's amazing how that can really help couples come back together that have had a lot of sexual dysfunction or disconnection.
But really important, especially for us with ADHD. What do your sheets feel like? Do you tolerate, are your sheets a tolerance? Is wherever you are having sex actually a tolerance for you? Or is it something that feels good and enjoyable? Do you even know anymore from years of being on those stupid sheets that you hate so much?
Okay, I need to get some new sheets for Christmas. Chris, if you're listening, we need some satin sheets.
Right? But is he going to be okay with satin, right? So like, I like silk, but Ariel does not. Right. So, how do you, what is the tech, like, can you go and can you just feel sheets and figure out like, maybe this will work? And then if it doesn't work, like, right, it doesn't, I thought this would be okay, but actually having it on my whole body is gross, right? Having that not be something that's scary to say, like having it be okay to change your mind. What do you have to put in place for it to be okay to change your mind? Right. It's a lot of questions as opposed to answers because you have to build your own toolbox of stuff that is going to work for you until it doesn't, and then you have to pick something else, right?
Yeah, it's ever changing, like we talked about. And I think it's a hard balance because you brought up a good point. We might have a lot of sensory icks that can kind of get in the way of the process, but we also want to just have fun and be spontaneous. So it's like, oh, things are happening. Let's just go with it. But wait, the lights are too bright. The blinds are open. We're on the floor and it's rubbing up against my thigh. And like, it's so hard to like compartmentalize that and be in the moment and spontaneous.
Well, if you can ahead of time, right, figure out what your tolerances are and minimize them just in life, right? Because to have the energy and time to actually, mental energy and time, not even physical time, which is its own thing with children and stuff, but like to have the mental energy and time to be able to be intimate with your partner requires a lot of those tolerances to go away. And there's certain tolerances, like our children, they're still going to be there. But there's other tolerances, like those sheets that you just realized now that you've touched your sheets and we've had this conversation. I hate these sheets, right? Like, so what kind of things can you get rid of? If there's like, we had formula that smell of the formula made me want to vomit. I'm so excited we're off formula now. It's the best thing ever happened to me. But as much as possible, I would have my wife make the formula because that was a tolerance that added to the brain, that took away the brain space that I would have to be able to come back into my body. Right. Because every time you have a tolerance, you kind of have to build up kind of like a wall between you and that tolerance. And then, but to be intimate, those walls have to be down.
Yeah, it's a whole game changer, right, with kids. I know Susie's kind of in that too. So Susie, can you like relate to adding a kid
I
to the
can't
mix?
even be in this podcast right now. I'm just joking. But like it is a lot. No, it is a lot right now. I think my sex life right now is on a big pause, and it's really hard for me. For him, it's easy. Like he could just sneak in some time. But for me, I mean, she sneezes and I'm out of it, you know? If I start to hear her like kind of roll around too much, I'm out of it. I don't even want to, I can't because I just don't want to be in the moment.
Mhm.
Because the idea of having to break away is so heavy in my head.
The transition.
Yeah. So I just really can't like even like start to get in the mood, and because I'm like, oh, well, what if she wakes up? Then we'll have to stop, and I don't even want to like deal with that. Like,
How old's your baby?
she is 11 months.
Yeah, 13 months.
Yeah.
We said for the first year we were in our friendship era. Right?
Yeah.
Honoring we are a team, and
Yeah.
that's cool. But like, and every once in a while, for a treat, if like baby usually had to be out of the house, right? We could find like a half an hour here or there, maybe. But then we also have to not be exhausted.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It felt like my eyes had bees in them. They were so trying to keep them open.
Yeah. Like the tiredness, it's a body thing. Like I used to read every night. I can't now. I open the book the minute I start on the first sentence, I'm out. And I knock out when I go to sleep. So he already knows, like if I'm already knocked out at night, I'm not waking back up unless it's an emergency. And it's tough. And we've had our ups and downs with it. We're still trying, which is like a big thing. But she's definitely taken over our lives right now. And it's a good thing. We wanted this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do miss having the ability to just have the night for ourselves, if that makes any sense.
That really makes a lot of sense.
And I really look forward to like getting away, like having a weekend away. But those are very far and few in between at the moment.
We've had 3 dates in 13 months. Well, two. We're about to have our next one tomorrow. We're both taking the day off work. We're putting the baby in daycare. We're putting the dog in daycare. And we're going to go to brunch or go to a movie. And we're going to have an actual time where we just are like with each other as people. When we do that, we end up just looking at photos of the baby. It's whatever. But, you know, at least we're doing it without the baby also screaming and the dog screaming in the background, right? It's real. And everyone said, it goes by so fast. I go, no, it doesn't. And apparently, once they get in school, it goes by fast. Or like once they start sleeping through the night, she just started sleeping through the night like a couple weeks ago. And it has been like, wait.
Yeah.
But it goes in stages, right? Like I think that's the thing to recognize. Like even with intimacy, like if you're gonna be in a long-term relationship, it's gonna ebb and flow, right? Like you're not gonna just have this crazy, wild sexual chemistry every day, but you kind of go with that. Like there might be some weeks or months where you're really in sync and really connected, and it feels really fluid, and other times where it feels really hard, and maybe you're disconnected, but you just keep going back, and you have that persistence and that desire. And, you know, I have an 8-year-old and 5-year-old now. So some things are harder, some things are easier, right? It's like, you know, there still is that bid for your attention. There's still the exhaustion. When they're home, it's so hard for me to be present. You know, a lot of times we can sneak away because maybe they're occupied, but I have that anticipation that there's going to be a little knock on the door any minute. It's like, I can't fully be present unless I know that there is not going to be that interruption. And so I think just overall in parenthood, it definitely throws a wrench into that, right?
Yeah. Can we spend 5 minutes just trying to see each other as human beings again? Right? And if that's interrupted, okay, we spent 2 minutes seeing each other as human beings again, right? Our couples therapist tells me that we need other things besides sex in our toolbox to reconnect. It sounds stupid to me. That was always our go-to before the baby, right? And now it can't be anymore. and we have to find like new ways to be, but we are also, like we were saying, we're whole new people. So now we have the joy of meeting a whole new person, a grumpy, tired new person.
It's a new era. Yeah, I mean, I think that's such a good point, right? And, sometimes it's like this pressure of, okay, we probably have a few minutes before they come, let's go. And then you just feel this anxiety of like having to get everything done. And then for me personally, I just can't. So I think, that's why we have date nights or have weekends away so that you can take that pressure off and it can feel more natural. But around, like you said, there are still ways that we can connect and be close physically without having sex, right? Like we can still rub each other, hold hands, like behind each other and kiss each other. Like we can still show that affection without feeling the pressure that we have to like sneak away and get done real quick before they come. So I think you kind of get creative, like you said, and say, these are ways that we can still connect when the kids are around, or, maybe someone's on their cycle or, someone's exhausted or whatever those factors are. Like there are still ways. So breaking out of the all or nothing, which I think is hard because it's like either this or nothing.
I know, living in the gray. My therapist has been trying to get me to do that since I was 15, and I'm getting much better at it, but it's still really, really hard. That there is this middle space where we have to live most of our life, which is, it's true, right? Like most things are not all or nothing if you actually like are looking at them, right?
Yeah.
But man, trying to convince my brain that that is true, no matter how many examples I give to it, it gets real mad at me. And like, but I think there's also the expectation from the other person, right? Like there's this idea that the other person expects this. Like when they say let's go, that means a very specific thing, and that very specific thing has to be met in this very specific way, right? And if you can be like, okay, what is the thing that we can say that isn't going to trigger me and that's going to help connection, and maybe I can make the transition, right? Because you're like, there's no way if you say let's go that I can get there, right? And maybe there is no way. I'm not dishonoring that at all, but maybe if there was if it wasn't triggering your fight or flight response with the way that it was being presented, that there would be a way that you could get somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Redefining that. No, I think it's important. And, looking at how you've taken all this lived experience and knowledge and kind of created a business around it, how did that work? Like what made you decide to kind of get into coaching and helping folks with dating and intimacy and relationships? How did you create a business around that?
By accident.
I feel like it's true for all of us, right? We kind of just like fall into things. We're like, oh, that works.
I guess I'm here now. I in 2014, Amy Webb did this TED Talk about how she had a list of things, and then she found her husband to this list of things. I was like, that's brilliant. And I just showed it to my friends, and I was like, see, we can do this too. And they're like, I don't understand how. So I created a 5-step program to show people how to do the thing that I thought was so innate to me, right? And then I needed to have a niche, right? And then nothing felt right for a very long time. And then when I realized that there was this, what I saw as a gap in the ADHD space, which is being filled in now over the last couple of years, there's been some great stuff coming out. But still, there's always room for more voices, because the way that we talk and the way that we connect is resonates with different people, right? Like some people love the messy, right? Like I am so psyched that Susie has been distracted by her baby the whole time. I feel very seen by Susie trying to get her 11-month-old to stay still in any way, shape, or form, right? Like it's been amazing for but like some people are like, the child has no space in this space, right? And those aren't our people, right? And that's okay. And there's other people that can work with them that aren't in this place. But it has been healing, Susie, to have this interview with you. So thank you so much for being in this space in the way that you came to it today.
Hey, dude, I'm just coming in super real today. This is me. I'm a feral mom right now
It's the only way to do
with
the
a
first year.
feral fucking kid.
Yeah.
With you think you can like hack it with them. That's what the Thank you, Juliet, for testing me today, because seriously, like, I thought I had all these great tricks that were going to work and none of them had. But I've been listening to every word you said, because like this was a topic I was so excited about. And of course I had to deal with like a blowout, food everywhere.
It's recorded. You come listen to it later. And also, like, my DMs are always open, right? Like, I'm happy to talk.
No.
Yeah.
I have this ability where I can deal with chaos and listen.
Oh,
I do it all
nice.
day, every day at the salon. And, I'll be knee deep doing someone's freaking crazy ass color correction and listening to the latest gossip of the town.
Nice. I love
Superpower.
that.
So I'm really
Yeah.
good at like multitasking. I think it's a win. She's excited about it.
Yeah. I'm just so honored to be here, and I really appreciate both of you for taking the time to talk with me today.
Yeah, this was amazing. I love connecting with other folks on this journey, because there's just so many shared experiences, and just listening to you talk, it's just this amazing feeling of yes, you get it, right? And just being able to be authentic and real and take all the pressure off, right?
Mhm.
That space is so important for our community. And that's really our goal of the whole podcast. Like, we want people to know, like, you're not alone, you're not too much. Like, we see you, we hear you, we feel you, and we want to create a community for people to be able to go to access resources and information that help them improve their life in so many different ways.
I
So
love it.
that's good to know that you have this like coaching program, because like honestly, I'm sick and tired of getting all these ads for like female dysfunction. It's like Viagra for girls. Um, Dude, does that even work? Is that even a real, like, what is going on? Is that new? I just now am noticing that more and more.
I mean, it depends on the reason, right? So, in Come As You Are, she talks about that there are multiple different reasons that people may be having trouble with desire, right? And if the problem is a blood flow issue, then yes. If the problem is the laundry, then no.
Oh my God, that was like such a perfect way to describe it.
Yeah, actually, then no. I feel like it's sad that women don't talk about this more, or people, I should say, because I want to hold space for everyone.
Mhm.
But it always does to me. And again, I'm surrounded by a lot of, straight women, but I know it can be in many groups. Just that the whole idea of sex and how we can become so disconnected for so many reasons.
Mhm.
I know having ADHD, like there are a lot of people who either have like that hypersexuality
Mhm.
or pretty much low sexuality. And when Mhm.
We don't talk about why you have
Yeah.
hypersexuality or low sexuality, and I think some of it is seeking, dopamine seeking, but some of it is approval. And women don't talk. No one talks about this vulnerably, right? Like, men can talk about sex, like, I'm boneless. Ooh. Really?
Yeah. Or my dick just doesn't work, so I take a blue pill and now it does. Like, how is that so easy for them? And they have no shame. But like, I've never heard of a girl say like, "Oh, I take female Viagra."
But like, do they have no shame? Because if they actually were to talk about it in an actually like human way and to acknowledge the humanity, there's not really a space for that I've seen much of, right? There's a space to be Casanova, or like to have a hero's journey, but there's not a space to actually be to be a full human being for anyone. And part of being a full human being at some points in our lives, not all the time, right? But at some points in our lives, being a sexual human being, if that's something that works for us, right? Some people are ace, some people never aren't like into sex, and that's totally fine, right? This podcast part is probably not gonna apply to you, but if you're interested, like, welcome, right? Everyone's welcome at the table. But there's times, like, especially for Susie and I right now, where it's just not, it's a whole, like, adding a whole human being that is constantly dependent on you is an adventure.
To be honest, Chris and Amy, I don't think I even told you this, and I'm going to talk about it because that's what this podcast is about. I think the worst my sexuality has ever lowered wasn't even this baby. It was the baby of my business. The first year, I had a really hard time getting hard.
Yeah.
I did. No, I'm not even kidding. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to tell you guys the truth. Like, I'm listening to you because I'm afraid of it happening again.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost like I would close my eyes and I don't even know if this is relatable to anyone else, but like all the salon problems would like come to me with my eyes closed and reaching an orgasm really hard because like all I would do is like right before that orgasm would come or between that time, I would start to see the problems, like the people, the actual people, the client that complained about the bad haircut, the stylist that gave me a shitty attitude the other day, the lower sales the week before. Am I going to make this rent? It was like infuriating to me. And, I didn't understand why, like, I couldn't turn my mind off. This is before I got medication.
But also you were in fight or flight.
I've been in survival mode for a really long time.
But the salon was just, you needed that money, right? For your literal survival, right? That you were getting from the salon. And that rent was probably not a small amount either on top of the rent you were actually already paying, right?
Right. And I was a divorcee at the time. So here I am trying to live on my own in my own condo and also having the overhead of a salon. So I had two new overheads that I never had had.
Yeah. You can't. So just so you know, it was technically a salon, but it was probably, you cannot get hard if you are in fight or flight.
Ooh. Say that again. Say that again for the people in the back.
You cannot get hard if you are in fight or flight.
Why can men?
They cannot get hard if they are in fight or flight either. Okay. There is what men are taught to do is shove everything down and ignore it until they have a psychotic break, right? What women are taught to do is talk about it, but in a way that is not going to necessarily lead to connection, right? We can vocalize it, we can talk about it, it can exist, we don't have to push it down, but we can be like, you didn't do the dishes, right? So we're vocalizing it, but we're not, but there's two emotions that are okay for men to have, anger and lust, right? So it is one of their two emotions that they're allowed to have, and it is the one way that they're allowed to feel connection that is acceptable in our society. So it's not that they are not in fight or flight, it's that the only way that they're allowed to reach out in our society, right? Like Amy has a relationship where that sounds like that's not it, right? It's not all men, right? Whatever. But like when you say why can they get hard, this is the one way that they have a lot of times to have human connection that is acceptable.
Wow. So it's kind of just the way that they were trained, right? The way that they were socialized and what's allowed, what's not allowed.
Like a hormone thing?
No, it's just socialization.
Society.
Okay.
Yeah. It has nothing, like, people will try to say that it's that men are just like this. There are plenty of societies where men are full human beings and they are fine before imperialism gets to them, you know?
Yeah, for sure. It's conquering, right?
Yeah, but that conquering thing is not innate. that conquering thing is pretty white.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's so
that's
powerful.
why what is it, a quarter of Asia is related to like Genghis Khan.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
If that doesn't speak volumes, like what does,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Uh,
But Genghis Khan is not inherent to all people. Genghis Khan is a singular person who had a complex, right?
right.
So yeah,
But part of that creation of that toxic masculinity.
yeah, 100%, 100%.
And I think sometimes too in relationships, like past relationships, I get afraid of that showing up when it's hard to connect physically, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, because, if you both are socialized so differently and you have a different idea of intimacy and expectations, I think that's where sometimes there can be that disconnect. And so it's making sure both people can be open and vulnerable and connect emotionally, because we know that if you're not connecting emotionally, all the other stuff can be really, really hard, especially for those of us that were socialized as females. Like,
Mhm.
we need that connection. We need that understanding. So yeah, I think it's just reconstructing how you talk about it, how you approach it, what tools you use. And I think this conversation has been so helpful because it really kind of opens up that dialogue about what is intimacy, what is sex, what are some of the challenges unique to ADHD, but also ways to overcome that.
Mhm.
Chris, I do want to just give you a few minutes to talk about kind of your coaching and services that you offer. So people that are listening, they're like, oh my gosh, I need to work with this person. How do they reach you? What do you offer? And what can they expect?
Yeah. So right now, I am not doing individual coaching per the 13-month-old that we were talking about. I am taking on, if people want to bring me in to teach. That is what I am currently doing. You can reach me on Instagram at Distracted Love Chris, pretty much everywhere at Distracted Love Chris, or my website, which is distractedlove.com. If you want to reach out. And also my DMs are open. If you have something where you're like, what about this? Right. I might be able to send you voice notes in between blowouts, as Susie very much understands.
I love that. I love the aspect of teaching, and we may leverage that because Susie and I have talked about the idea of doing different like retreats and seminars and things and bringing people together. And I think that'd be really cool, even just for couples, right? Like maybe down the road when things kind of open up for you, like having a couples retreat or something where we can all bring our different skill sets to have these conversations in a very like vulnerable and intimate way to really teach couples how to communicate, how to identify some of these things and how to build those tools, right?
That'd be beautiful. Yeah, it sounds awesome.
Let's do it, guys.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for taking away the shame of talking about all this because I think it's hard for us, I mean, I think that there's a lot of healing that I'm seeing happening, but I think there's still a lot more that can be done in our world, especially in the
100%.
ADHD community, and not feeling flawed. Because I think that when you have issues in the bedroom, as they say, you feel flawed, right?
Yeah, and the live I did with Amy, I had a whole section where I just like randomly listed off a bunch of things about us that make us amazing and lovable. And it's important to remember that it happens in all parts of our lives.
Yes, I think that's so important to ground ourselves in, right? Like all those great qualities. And, even being able to do that as a couple, right? Acknowledging all those things that you love about each other and all those different ways that you can connect. So, well, awesome. This has been so helpful. Thank you so much. And we will definitely chat soon.
Yes.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was so nice to see you guys. Bye.